Hello, Internet, and hello to everybody listening to the live stream right now. You are listening to the Making Geeks podcast, the podcast for makers, dads, and geeks. We are back again with another great show for you, and we have our co-host here, Mr. Josh Price,
Hello.
Mr. Mark O'Keefe,
Going on.
Mr. Wes Swain,
Hello, hello.
and we have a very special guest today from NeverNotMaking, Mr. Matt Regonini.
Hey, fellas.
Hey,
Good
buddy.
to have you.
What's up?
Hey, good to be here. Thanks.
If you're not watching the YouTube live right now, or if you don't plan on going watching it later, Matt is dressed in probably the best attire any one of us could ever hope for a guest on the show.
I agree.
Yeah, he takes the cake for preparedness for being a guest on the show.
Best dressed. Best dressed.
Best dressed, yes.
Yeah. There's only so many times a year that you can wear a full Ghostbusters outfit, and you put the money into it, and you want to make the most out of it.
We're glad we can indulge you that one time.
I told you, honey, it's worth it.
It's for work.
Yeah, she has her own. My wife has her own, so
Oh, that's
you're
love.
lucky I didn't wear hers because it's a bit
Little
more
more
form-fitting.
So how you guys been doing this week?
Pretty good.
I had to shovel today.
Oh yeah.
Congrats.
It's been snowing here, but I haven't had to shovel.
Yeah, we
I
had
don't even know what you guys are talking about.
It's white stuff that falls from the sky. It's kind of chilly sometimes.
snow. What's that?
I've actually never been in the snow, so I still don't know.
Really?
Like ever?
Never. Nope.
It took me a while, but it's pretty fun when you finally do it.
It sounds like you guys all live in Narnia.
It feels like we live in Narnia.
Yeah, might as well. We're expecting what, nor'easter number 5 on Sunday?
Man,
You
we
can ship
we
some more of it this way.
Yeah, for your margaritas.
I love snow and I love storms, but this is getting ridiculous.
We had about 2 feet last week.
Good God.
On one hit.
This last night was about 16 inches.
Oh,
And it
That's what she
just
said.
came out of nowhere, too, because it was raining and raining, and then I was helping my buddy move, and I'm looking out the window. I'm like, all right, it's not that bad. Go paint his living room, come back, and it is just, you can't see across the street.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, when it's
It
that
was
volume of snow, does it, like, how impactful is it on your cities? I know how it would be here, but, like, you guys are more prepared for it than we are, so, or is there a certain level where it's still just as devastating as far as, like, getting around and clearing it out and all that stuff, digging out of it? What's the level where it's like, oh, that's too much?
I
and it
think
shuts stuff down?
it comes down to everyone's an idiot in the snow.
Okay.
So the amount of snow is really just, can your car still drive in it? And it gets to a certain point where you can't. But before that, it's everything can be good, but people are idiots.
Okay, I guess the question should be reworded. When do they cancel schools? At what depth?
Oh, that before the snow even hits, and it might not be any accumulation at all. The scare of it is enough to cancel schools.
Okay.
Yeah, they canceled a bunch of schools out here last night for today, and we got a quarter of an inch today, and it's gone. It's already gone. So
That stuff like that has happened here too. Like you get maybe a dusting, but every news media is, oh, we're gonna get hit with everything. No, we didn't get hit with anything. You could have went this.
Yeah, they made that mistake here in Raleigh. They didn't put out the warning like that, and kids got caught midday traveling home on the bus, and they got stranded on interstates. People ran out of gas on the interstates. They had to abandon their cars. There's that one famous meme where there's like a car fire in the distance, and there's like a couple people walking into the foreground. That's from Raleigh, and that was maybe like 3 inches of snow, if that.
man,
They would like Photoshop like like an AT-AT Walker like in the distance, or like Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, like some sort of Armageddon scene. Pretty awesome.
They should cancel school out here when it rains. It's almost the same problem.
We used to get hurricane days. It was the same thing. All the little squiggly lines on the Weather Channel that shows that the hurricane's going to come destroy your house. And it's like, oh. And then they cancel school, and then it busts a hard right or left. And then it's just the most beautiful kind of day, and you go to the beach. And it was really nice.
Well, Sean, do you guys get mudslides when you get a ton of rain?
Not in the areas that I live and work.
No.
That's a little bit closer to the coast.
Okay.
I'm about 25, 30 miles inland. Yeah, we're just kind of like Los Angeles adjacent.
Nice.
Yep.
So, Matt, I know you live right outside of Boston, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so on our trip, we got to go and hang out. And you have a big lake, like across the street. Has a lake frozen over, and you guys talk about going ice skating. Has it happened this season?
It happened once. Well, I mean, the lake has been frozen, was frozen solid for a good month and a half. It's now wide open water again, not a piece of ice on it. But yeah, as soon as it's frozen, the whole neighborhood is out there skating. We had the little one this year, and so he was, just got to sit in his sled. But because of it's sort of a use it or lose it moment. If you're not out there right away when it freezes, you kind of lose your opportunity, because once you get a good snowstorm, it kind of ruins the ice. You're just skating through slush at that point.
Mm.
But yeah, we had one good family skate this year, but we're usually out there drinking with the neighbors in the middle of the night with flashlights and
Nice.
flasks. Yeah.
That sounds wonderful.
It is.
It snowed the perfect amount here, where it'll get like 3 or 4 inches, but the roads are still fine. You can still drive. Nobody's crashing. But there was, I guess, one bus incident a couple years ago. So now anytime it snows, everybody's freaking out because they don't want to be sued. So all the kids got to stay home. Like, my kids are Florida kids. So the only time they've seen snow was like the other day. So they're out making a snowman, and it's all just nasty, deformed thing with a carrot in the yard now that the snow's all melted. So it's really fun for them. It's winter wonderland. But it was gone by this afternoon.
Did you have to teach them the dangers of eating the yellow snow?
No, they know nothing about that.
It's lemonade.
Yet.
The lemon
Mhm.
snow. Yeah.
I guess I should probably have that talk.
Or brown snow or other different colors.
Be like Will Ferrell when he goes to New York. Do not pick up the street gum. Ooh, candy.
So, Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, man?
I'm a guy. I make stuff.
You're qualified
No,
to be here. Good.
Cool. Yeah, I got a kid. I like geeky stuff, and I make stuff. Yeah, I mean, I am a maker in my free time, and in real life full-time job, I'm a designer. Which the two things go kind of hand in hand. But I've been building things since I was a kid. Like all you guys, starting with Legos, and then once I became like around a teenager, started working job sites with family, doing carpentry. Thought maybe that was what I wanted to do, but maybe I also wanted to do art. So I went to art school, studied industrial design, did a product design. And then when I got out, I worked as a fabricator for almost a decade, designing and building retail displays. And that was a fun time. And then I kind of got out of that, started working as a designer, more of a desk job, using my hands less and less, sort of like losing my skills. And then, decided like, hey, I got to really push myself to get those skills back, because, it's important. It's important to be well-rounded, get out there in the shop, and as much as you're sitting at a desk. So I started doing the YouTube thing. Saw a few people's videos, said, hey, I think I have something to share too. And just started kind of keeping track of things. And I'm notoriously bad at keeping track of my work. It's usually one and done and out the door, and I never have a picture. So it's sort of been like a good way for me to keep a portfolio and then also just kind of meet some cool people.
Absolutely.
We were in Boston. I think we got a chance to see quite a bit of your work that was used to not really decorate. Well, actually, it was kind of decorating, but like the seating and the tables, right? In the area that we were in.
Mm-hmm.
That was some really impressive work.
Thanks. Yeah. So, like, for anyone that wasn't there.
Yeah, so let's take a step back on that point right there. So we all met Matt in Boston. So when we were at the Making It 100 event, it was
2 years ago.
some Decembers ago.
Over a year ago, yeah.
A year and change.
That whole event happened in the Converse World Headquarters in Boston. And it happened there because of Matt. So why don't you tell us how that all went down and how did we all meet in that location? As crazy as it was, how did that all come together on your end?
Yeah, I mean, on my end, I knew the Making It podcast. Those three guys, whatever their names are.
Steve and
No,
Jimbo and
Steve,
Craig.
Steve, John, and Montgomery.
Burns.
No, I listened to the Making It podcast, and it was time for them to find a locale, and I was like, hey, my company had just moved into this great, huge new building, and I was like, I wonder if my boss will let me have guests over. So, I just like put myself out there and wrote up a little proposal, just saying like, hey, like we have this opportunity to host these creatives, and it'd be a good chance to like kind of do the right thing for people who are like our customers and who love our product and who are also like really awesome creative people. And it'd be a great opportunity for my coworkers to be able to come check out the festivities too. So I just drew up a proposal and submitted it to my boss and my boss's boss, and it went all the way up to the CEO, and They said yeah. So it's sort of just one of those things where you have an opportunity and you just ask, and sometimes it works out. I mean, if we weren't there, if I had been working if I was a mechanic working in a garage that was big enough to hold 300 people, I would have asked to hold it there.
You want to mention what the company was, just for context for people that don't know?
Oh yeah, we were at the Converse World Headquarters in Boston. So yeah, and I had reached out to Bob, and I was like, I might be able to make this work. And he was like, no thanks, we already have a spot.
Because it was the Autodesk, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they just outgrew it really quick.
Yep.
So then he was like, yeah, I'm gonna look to take you up on that offer. So I said, yeah, I'd love to have you and your 300 of your stranger friends in my place of business. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually presented a unique opportunity for us, not just because we were one of the presenters that day, but that was the first and only time that we've ever met each other face to face as a podcast.
Yeah.
So it kind of helped that happen as well.
I'm glad I could be your Match.com.
Yes.
I've got to tell you guys a funny story about that event. I had to register guests with security, and I had told Bob like, hey, let me know who's coming on that first day, because he was just planning on like dropping some stuff off, checking out the scene. And I was like, cool, just send me a list of everyone's names so I know who's coming. And the list never went through. So then all of a sudden it was 4:00 in the afternoon, and like 30 people are down at the door wanting to come in. And it's like, I mean, security is cool. They know me or whatever, but it was like overwhelming. I was like, oh no.
Because, I mean, rightly so. We just kind of took over the space. It was a really awesome space. It's a big communal area on like the ground floor. It had like a coffee bar. And like we owned the joint, walked in there with a couple boxes full of random stuff and just set up shop.
Oh yeah,
and
you guys were moving
completely
furniture.
oblivious to what was going on around us.
Yep.
Yeah, there were people like walking by giving us goofy looks. We're like, what? We have a thing going here.
Are you invited? Are you invited to this thing?
Yeah. You're not on our roster, person who works here every day of your life.
Yeah,
I'll check the
I think
list.
Pacciuto elbowed the AV guy out of the way, to get to the soundboard and start doing sound checks and stuff. No, you know what? That I think everyone going in was a little nervous. You don't know how, 300 people are gonna react in a space together, and having all you guys up on stage, for the first time. No one really everybody's at a disadvantage, right? But I got to say, like, that whole weekend went off like without a hitch, down to the point where we were wrapping up, and all of the guests at the venue just started picking up their chairs and stacking them up neatly and made these little piles, and like we had paid people to come do that later, and yet you guys just jumped in like without being asked and just like stacked up your pizza boxes for recycling, and it was just such a good experience.
Nice.
And it was really fun. It was really nerve-wracking because like up to the moment that like we walked on stage, we were the first act, we were still figuring it out. Everybody was still figuring out like what we were doing. Because we were talking to Bob and Dave and all the other podcasts. Like we were like, well, who should we go first? Like maybe you should go first. And that was happening the evening prior. And then we were going to have John Berard from MakerCast as like the MC. I was like, when should you go up? Like, go up on there. Yeah, maybe now. Like, do we have a mouse for the thing? We're like, let's go find some stuff. And so it was hodgepodge together. So if you were in the crowd and it did seem to go off like a hitch, that was kind of amazing because we were literally pulling it out of our butt like every other moment.
Well, the batteries died in the clicker. That was not ideal.
Oh, yeah.
So AV guy didn't change those batteries.
Way to go, AV guy.
Oh, man. You guys need a refund? You got your refund on this face.
Well, no, it was so cool because Matt took us on a tour. So we got to go up all the different floors here, watching people design. There's the people that are doing Chuck Taylors, people doing clothing lines, people doing so many awesome things that we weren't allowed to take pictures. And then there's like, I just go over to a pile of these like experimental designer shoes. And I was like, go grab them and handing them off to people. Who wears a 9.5? Like I remember Pacciuto walked out with like a pair of all leather, super baller white Chucks. You happen to have the right shoe size, you can get a pair of non-available in-store Chuck Taylors. It was crazy.
That's the problem with being a 12.5. You don't get crap.
Yeah, those were all my part of my personal collection that I brought in. That big bag. All the ones I thought, they're just too. Those were the ones I didn't want to wear.
Yeah, that was such a fun time. Like, it was neat because that was my second trip to Boston. I don't know how many of you guys have been to Boston before, but it was the first time you would go for like something businessy or something proper, and it was like such a cool venue, and the first time for us to meet in person. Like, what a better stage! Like, we couldn't find a cooler place to do that. It was so neat.
Yeah, and it was a great time for me too because I was, I had really enjoyed meeting you guys and just, I'm fairly new to the whole YouTube community, and it was like an instant way to just meet a grip of like-minded people. So definitely came away from that with like some solid relationships, not just like contacts, but like, you form some relationships. You hang out for a weekend, you form a bond. It's not the same as, hitting someone up on Messenger, like
Right.
in a cold call type of way.
Friendship forge over clam chowder.
So, you are a new dad.
I am.
So you're an independent, cool guy. Now, you're a cool guy with a kid.
Mm-hmm.
If you now could go back to 5-6 years ago, give yourself the rundown on being a new dad. What tips, like what do you need to know beforehand? You should have learned this. You're going to need to know this. For all the people out there in our audience that might not be new dads or that are expecting, what is like one thing that my wife and I joke about is like, we used to be cool. Like, we were for real. We were cool until you 3 children like sucked the life out of us. And now we're just regular. So you're still cool. So how do you tell the cooler version of yourself back then, how do you prepare to have a kid?
Oh man. I mean, I don't. First of all, I don't know that I was ever that cool.
I don't have a
Um,
Look at your
bloody-headed
outfit.
picture of James Dean on my wall.
I think the biggest thing when we were waiting for the child, I was given a good piece of advice by another dad I was friends with, and he said, lots of people are going to have advice for you. Pretend to take all of it. Just whatever people say, just agree with and say, yeah, I'm totally going to do that. Because it will just help you avoid so many awkward conversations and arguments with people who think, whatever you're doing is wrong. But I think for myself, looking back, it's like just prepare to be unimportant for a while. You're looking at my wife had to have a C-section, an unplanned C-section because our baby was in distress, and I don't think I really prepared myself for what that meant for her recovery. When you have something like that, you can't pick up your baby from his crib. Like someone has to hand you the baby. So like any sense of like self-importance or like that you think you have for yourself, just be prepared to put that aside for a bit because you are suddenly the least important person in the house. And it's tough. It's tough on like a few levels to kind of like realize that. And man, I don't think I would have been prepared if this was 10 years ago. I was way too busy being selfish and having fun, at 27. I don't know how the younger dads do it, man. I just, because I would not have had the patience.
I'm still not that young, and I'm still trying to find patience.
I think it also helps too that I'm like pretty much an insomniac in general. So like the lack of sleep doesn't really affect me, but
Is that the special daddy-son hangout time?
yeah, exactly. It was at least for, the first few months, but I did the 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift and then
Don't worry, I got
passed
it from
him
here.
over to
Yeah.
yeah, and then passed him over to my wife to take care of for a few hours.
Would you guys answer that question a different way? Would it be different for everybody? That same idea?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely agree with what he said. Prepare to be not important. Also, just practice your patience. It's not going to be that way forever. It's just, the first, and your life will significantly change. Like mine's going to be 3. And for the first 2 years, I was, even to her, I was kind of completely unimportant, because you don't have what mommy has to, make her life great. So
The personal mini fridge.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I was drawing a blank on how to other phrase that.
We get how it works. It's okay.
But now she's like, I'm starting to be better than mom because I can pick her up and fly her around the room and I toss her around. My wife's like, be careful. I'm like, she's still smiling. It's fine. So yeah, it does. Everything does change. It is in a constant state of flux. And if things start to suck, just remember, it's not going to be that way forever. It's just currently difficult in some way, shape, or form, and it will change and it will get better.
Yep.
So I actually had a huge revelation like before we got on tonight. Or before I got on. I was late. I'm sorry. But like my son, we were getting onto him. We had to discipline him for what he was like throwing snowballs at his brother and he's freaking out. And so as I was talking to him, I guess for the first time, like I have 3 kids, and I should have thought about this earlier. And if I could go back and tell my past self, You just need to know like what you stand for. Because like I'm trying to correct behavior and I'm trying to discipline him, and I'm like, what do you even care about? Like to be consistent. And so as I'm talking to him, I'm talking about like, look, this is a standard of behavior. Like anything below the standard of behavior, like is not acceptable. And then I'm like, well, we set the standard for a reason. And in my head, I'm like, what is that
Standard.
reason?
I got to come up with it right now. What is it?
Yeah. And I'm like, I tell you to do all these things, but I'm like, there's a reason why we tell you. And I'm like, what is your reason? And
It's a
I
great
did a
time for
really
that
good
to pop
job.
into your head.
Oh, it was nuts, but it was flowing. And I'm like, there are 3 things that I really care about, like as a dad. And I was telling Deacon, and he was super receptive, and I'm on a high from like a parenting win tonight. I was like, my first thing is that I have to keep you guys from dying. So you have to eat. You can't run out into the road. You can't like throw rocks at each other's face and that kind of stuff. I was like, the second thing is that you need to be like an upstanding citizen and treat other people the way they should be treated. It's like, so you be nice to other people. You don't be mean to your brother. You use your manners or whatever. And the third thing is something I've told them many, many times. I was like, and the third is that you cannot be a white trash hooligan. It's like, so you eat food at the table so you don't get stains on my couch. So when people come over, they think I'm a white trash hooligan because I got crap all over my couch. You put all your shoes over by the thing so there's just garbage all over the place. You don't scream in public. Like it's a nice little catch-all. And so I summed up like the reasons why I'd say the things I say in those 3 key like tenets. And I was like, this is awesome.
It's like the
And
3
he was
laws of
totally-
robotics.
Yeah, right? It's the 3 laws of dad. I was like, if you don't interrupt any one of those 3 things, then we'll be super cool. We will jive all day long. You start rocking the boat in those 3 areas, you need to check yourself. But I was like, it was clarifying to me, and he was totally receptive. And so I was like throwing out these scenarios. I'm like, all right, when I said this, why do you think I said that? And he was like, so I didn't die, and because I was acting like a white trash hooligan. I'm like, bingo. That's exactly right. He can be taught. And like we both came to an understanding, and we shook hands and we walked off. I was like, this was amazing. So if I could tell my past self, it's like, you need to figure that out earlier so that when you do care about stuff, like, does it affect these 3 things? If not, I really don't care. So it's know early on what you stand for and then hit those things. But everything else is just kind of like, whatever, they're kids.
I do appreciate that you didn't eliminate throwing rocks altogether. It's just don't throw them at your face.
To
Well,
endanger
yeah.
the lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because Deacon got hit square in between the eyes with this big rock
Oh,
by his younger brother. So we had to pull that up as a case study. I'm like, and that was, don't die. You could have got killed. And now you got this stupid scar in the middle of your face like a white trash hooligan. Like, and I bet you didn't want to be hit in the face. I was like, that's all 3. So, yeah.
I could actually picture Josh pulling out like studies and like surveys and research for his kids on this
Here's
stuff.
the pie chart.
This is why you don't throw rocks.
I was doing hand motions, and I swear if I had like plotted graph paper, I absolutely would have done it. You are falling below the minimum accepted behavior threshold
It's
by
35.
at least a factor of 2.
You don't want to just do the bare minimum, do you?
So, what would you tell your older self or younger self?
Not counting the recent allegations, but all of the parenting tips that the Huxtables had, I should have written them things down.
Oh. Now that makes sense.
All of them.
You should lead off with that next time.
It wouldn't have been as interesting had it gone the other way. I had you guys on the hook. See?
I would want to follow that. Yeah.
well, in your own defense, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the Huxtables.
That's
Technically, yes.
Mm, yeah, that's
Huxtables
true.
is fine. That's
They're
correct.
Theo's a little bit
Perfect-
questionable.
Perfectly
But
innocent, fictitious character.
That is correct. But he would always like sit Theo down and have like a nice heart to heart. And like I remember watching him as a kid, like man, because I grew up with my grandparents and not ideal, like not the normal parental kind of structure. So I was like, man, I wish I had my dad that could tell me things like he's, I always envious of that sort of relationship. So I wish I took notes for my future self when I became a dad, so I could use those. I might go back and rewatch them because they're pretty good. Like breaking it down so they can understand. Cause,
Wear sweaters like a boss. Underline twice.
like he always had like teachable moments. Like a lot of those shows had like a little moral thing at the end and stuff. But I don't. Maybe don't.
See, I find myself trying to turn all things into a teachable moment, and you get really preachy.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of my problem.
Mm.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry, man.
No, you're good. I don't have any specifics. That's kind of my general wish.
I don't think there's anything wrong with, creating a teachable moment. I think, you're showing substance there to your kid, and it's not just that stereotypical because I told you so, and which I think was also a Huxtable thing. It's like, you're not going to do that because I told you so.
It's because they don't have a reason at the, ready
At the moment.
Yeah, that's their catch-all.
You got to get through the screaming to be able to hit a teachable moment, and that for me is, I think, the hardest part.
That's true.
Because I like the noise and I hate that sound.
Yeah.
And so they come at you with screaming, and it's the equal or opposite reaction, and you have to be able to humble yourself to just make yourself so small in that moment just to let them get it out. And my wife heard somewhere the thing about the tunnel. Have you guys heard about the tunnel? Their emotion tunnel. Imagine if they're a train and they're going in through a tunnel. And she was half joking. This is not some sincere thing that she abides by, but it has speckles of truth. But so they're upset and they're crying and they're screaming, and you're so, stop screaming, stop crying, right now. They can't work out their emotions. You're trying to get a train to turn while it's in a tunnel. And you have to let the train go all the way through the tunnel. And then when they're processed all those emotions, then you can get to that core. I'm like, that's super dumb. Your analogy is dumb. The whole point is not dumb.
Sound like
But
a bunch of hippy dippy crap to me.
So it's now whenever they're like screaming, freaking out, and she's like, ah, I'm like, no, they're in their tunnel.
Nice ammo. Oh man.
But it does have some truth.
Don't derail them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to take us off track for just a moment. Doesn't
Oh,
it seem like
nice one, nice one.
Mark, isn't Mark slowly turning into Joel Telling?
Whoa.
Oh my god.
Fair enough. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
His hair's spiking up.
It's the messy internet hair. I got to start somewhere, right? It's Joel and
You could do worse.
Wesley Crusher.
Okay.
Beverly Crusher?
Crush it.
No, whatever that is. I forget his name. Will we?
Oh, Wesley?
Yeah. What did I say?
Willie Crusher?
All right, back to the regular program.
So you're kind of killing it with your baby furniture.
It's true.
It's super awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully not killing any babies with my baby furniture.
Wrong phrasing. Phrasing.
As long as there's enough wood glue there, you're fine.
Yeah.
They just have to be
You
at the
are
right end. of
naming it.
Start with the first one.
Yeah, it's been fun. Other people have done. There's been a lot of Star Wars stuff out there, and a few people have said to me like, "Hey, you're not building that for your kid. You're building it for yourself." And they're right. They're absolutely right. This is
Welcome to fatherhood.
My kid has zero interests. He's 9 months old. Like,
So describe
this
what
is
you made
absolutely
for
for
those
me.
that don't know about you already.
Yeah.
What are
So
your projects?
the first project was my AT-AT rocking horse, which there are a few other ones out there, but I wanted to make mine from scratch and use the X-Carve as much as possible because my time has been so limited now that the baby's here that to have an army of robots to do my cutting for me as much as possible has really helped. So, I designed the AT-AT rocking horse from scratch, and that was a lot of fun, and got like a pretty good reception by people. And then the follow-up to that was the high chair, which was initially just going to be a piece of wall art, because I eventually want to build like a whole plywood vehicle scene, like a battle scene type of thing in his room. And this little walker was going to be just a piece of wall art. And I sent Wes a sketch, and I was like, hey man, check this out. And he just replied, high chair. And then I was, oh, well, now it is. It was gonna be 12 inches tall, but now it has to be a high chair. So, that instantly was like re-engineering everything, and then it just made it happen. And it is hilarious, man. And then I think I started building it before Last Jedi came out, just before. And then when I saw BB-8 riding that thing in the movie, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna kill it.
Timing.
So, and then I had to order the kid the little BB-8 costume, and
Baby 8.
BB-8, and that was just a lot of fun. And it's funny, I posted a picture online, and Adam Savage got a hold of it and retweeted it, and it just like my phone was just like, it wasn't on silent. It was just I was getting all these alerts on the side table of my house, and I legitimately thought there was an Amber Alert because it was just rattling off the table.
It was a geek alert.
And I look, and it was just like thousands of like retweets and responses. And then I had like a few friends, a couple designer friends, and even a lawyer buddy. They were like, "You got to protect that. You got to protect that. Take those pictures down." And I was like, "But Adam Savage, just come on." So yeah, people made me nervous, and I took it down. And in hindsight, obviously, it just like there was nothing to worry about. I wasn't trying to make any money off of it. It was, just for fun. But yeah, it's got a good reception. It's got a bunch of like cool blogs written about it, and then
even the
Wes,
Disney blog, right? Picked it up.
The Disney blog picked it up.
If that's not validation, what is?
Yeah, I mean that's basically permission, right?
Yeah, that's what I see.
True. Yeah.
And Wes, you do some stuff with Fatherly, right?
Yep. I've done some stuff in the past. Yep.
Yeah, so they're working on sort of a re-edit of the video right now, and then hopefully you'll get to do a project with them down the road too. So yeah, it's been a crazy response. It's been a lot of fun.
Super cool.
Did a good job on them.
Collaborations pay off.
That's right.
Let me know some more wall art. I'll think of something else.
Yeah, man. I was gonna build an R2 unit, but I was worried you'd say like potty training.
Oh, poor R2.
Mm-hmm.
That's dark.
So it kind of sounds like that with each stage of your son's development that a new thing is going to be kind of like an order. So yeah, the high chair, maybe like a big wheel.
Yeah.
Coming up something,
Yeah. I actually started designing a piece today. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but he needs a toy box. If you think about the basic shape of a toy box, and then try
sand
to
crawler.
You got it. So I think that could be just like a really easy. It's a box, with some details cut into it. So you get some of those chamfered edges right, and it would look the part. I mean, that'll be not too difficult to make look really cool. So.
And then are you gonna dress your son like a Jawa?
There's some good Jawa costumes out there for little kids. There's some really good ones.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Right now, I gotta finish up his wagon though. He's got I'm building him a hot rod wagon out of an old radio flyer.
I was
Yeah.
wondering what you were doing where they had massive tires and some
Yep.
suspension.
Yeah, Harbor Freight had a sale on big pneumatic tires. So I ripped off the old ones, welded up the frame, put these big tires on it. It looks like almost like a salt track racer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, made like a go-kart steering out of some, linkages from the home store. And yeah, I'm working on a video for that. Hopefully I'm gonna have that out like really soon. And then there's gonna be a part 2 where I like accessorize it, and I'm gonna do some sewing for the upholstery and stuff. And
Wow.
Sweet.
yeah, going way overboard.
That's the only way to do it, man.
Yeah,
Little
If you're gonna do
sippy
it,
cup
might as
holder.
well overdo it.
a sippy cup holder. Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
How long have we been talking? It seems like a while.
We're in about 45 minutes, I think, before we officially started. So, don't know
So
if
someone
you
had
guys
a question earlier.
Okay.
Wanted to know the age of our kids, if it wasn't too personal. Dan the Maker Man. So if it's not such a personal question, can we get a rundown of how old everyone's kids are?
Yes, I have a 7-year-old daughter and a almost 4-year-old son.
I have one almost 3 and one negative 3 months. Where are we? March, April, May, June, July. Negative 4 months.
Nice.
Nice. I have a 7-year-old, a 3-year-old, both boys, and a 2-year-old girl.
My son is 8 and my daughter is 6.
And my boy is 9 months as of last week.
Sweet.
Time flies.
He's officially
Mhm.
spent as much time out as he did in.
That's a good
So
threshold to
9
cross.
months. So he's got his own personality now, right? He's got his own. He laughs at legit things, not just when he farts.
Yeah, he's a quiet kid. He's got a great little like old man cackle. But I'm not getting like the big belly laughs yet. It's just a ha ha ha. He sounds like the old Jewish boy that he will eventually become, or old Jewish man.
Full circle, huh?
But yeah, he's starting to mimic, and he's, I think he's like, I want to say he's days away from walking. He's probably a month away from walking. He's getting there, man. He's a riot.
Sweet.
It's always weird when they enter in that time frame of advanced progression. Like my daughter recently just started with sentences. I have no idea what she's saying, but she is going on for minutes at a time, and I'm just like, wait, what? Wait, is that a word? Wait. And I'm trying to get the translator going, and I can't. And then she starts singing Moana and enacting entire scenes about the TV. So I'm like, maybe we've watched that. But it's cool. It's cool to see.
Just wait till your son comes up to you and with like the most serious expression. This happened a couple of days ago. He's like, "Dad, you're boring."
Oh,
I was like, "What?"
oh my heart.
I'm like, "Okay." And then later on, he keeps throwing it around though, so it took some of the sting out of it. Like we were eating dinner, and he's like, "Chicken is boring." I'm just like, okay. He's just attaching it to everything
It's-
now.
You're at least as boring as chicken.
Yeah.
That lamp is
I'm like,
boring.
have you seen your room? I'm the opposite of boring. Come on.
I can control Nerf guns with the internet.
Okay, but what if he comes to you one day and says, "Okay, Dad, Mario is boring."
Right.
Pack your bags, kid.
Right. Hop on your Yoshi.
I'll
throw
not
it in
have
on.
that blasphemy in my house. Get out!
I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually legitimately, as much as I'm putting Star Wars like in this kid's face 24/7, I'm legitimately like looking forward to the day where he's like, "Hey, build me this other thing, like something that I have no idea what it is." Like, I can't wait for that day. Like,
That'd be awesome.
hands me some random, toy that he has that I have no idea what it is. He's built me big one of these. Like, yeah, man, let's do it.
Deacon now has been explaining to me for the last couple of months this robot that he thinks I'm making in my spare time. But he's like, he'll explain what it looks like. And so we've been going into Fusion 360 and I'll model like little pieces of it. And so it's obviously influenced by stuff that you've seen. It kind of looks like the big round robot from Incredibles, but like with different stuff. But it's his version of drawing out something crazy on with crayons. But we can do it in the digital space. And it's so cool that he can see like this cockamamie idea he has in his head, like articulate and move. And he's like, oh, I want the head to pop up and I want this arm to move like this. And I'll do what I think it should do. He's like, no, not like that, like this. So it's really fun to see like his weird little tastes and his creativity kind of come through, and me being able to use modeling tools to help facilitate that is this beautiful blend of like his creativity and something that I can do. And it's really fun.
That's great.
But Sean, your son is actually like, he's manifested his own ideas, which is something my son can't do yet. He does that like Legos, but
My son right now it seems to be going bonkers with ideas. This last 2 weeks, he has been constantly creating his own papercraft world. Never showed him anything with this. Never said anything or like showed me any examples, but he figured out how to do everything. He made a full paper sword and shield with multiple levels. He's doing full figures. He figured all this out on his own, and it's really weird how he's just constant with this right now. I kind of feel like I have created like a little monster, but now I have to show that little monster how to clean up after himself, and then things will be better.
it's a third thing.
It's an interesting trade-off because I never expected to have my house this much in disarray. But when I look at what my kids are creating as a result of it, I kind of have to stand back a little bit and think, okay, my organization can take a little bit of a backseat to what I think they are experiencing right now, and hopefully be able to encourage that a little bit more. Yeah.
That's a good stance to take because I'm a neat freak like that, and I would immediately turn on it.
It drives me nuts. But when I see what he's creating, I still make him clean up and stuff after, but I'm not constantly harping on him about it, because I remember growing up and that actually happening to me so much that my brothers and I just stopped making stuff or stopped being creative. Oh, let's just play video games because there's no mess, and mom and dad won't yell about the place being a mess. And I'm trying to walk that line of keeping a clean household, but a creative one that kind of encourages and endorses these ideas going forward, because his mind is in a place that I will never be. And I'm really curious to see where he goes with what he's doing and what he's figuring it out. And my daughter too, except in a different way. She's a lot more imaginative. So
Yeah, you definitely have to be careful and have to squash that spirit. I remember one time in my bedroom growing up, when I lived with my grandmother, she caught me drawing on the wall, and it was like, by the time she caught me, it was bigger than a sheet of paper of something. I don't remember what it was, but instead of like jumping on me, which she definitely probably should have done, right? She just said, okay, there. She like kind of like drew out like a little tape area. She's like, you can draw within this area, and that's fine. Don't go anywhere else. But the whole, anywhere else in the house is bad. Just right here is good, and just focus in on this. I was like, all right, let's do it. So that kind of set me off on a better direction, I think, than if she would have just made me erase it immediately. So I'm sure her first instinct probably wasn't to keep it. I'm sure she was pretty pissed. But I think it was permanent marker. But
it's a solid reaction. That's pretty,
yeah.
So I'm trying.
I'm having that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm having that same situation where Deacon draws a bunch of stuff, and he tapes it to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the type of tape that just like comes off. And every time he tapes it, if he tears off, it tears off little pieces of paint. So I get super pissed at him. I'm like, stop taping things all over this house. But it's stuff that he's making, and it's like drawings that he's obviously very proud of. And at Bob's house, his grandfather had paintings everywhere, and there's like a stack, probably 2.5 foot thick, of old picture frames that don't have anything in them, just empty frames. And I was talking to Tiff, and I was like, why don't I get all those frames and spray paint them a bunch of crazy colors and just put empty picture frames like all over this big wall he has in his room now. I was like, and this whole thing could be like his gallery.
That's cool.
Put whatever you want to in any one of those frames. You tape it to the wall, highlight whatever you want to highlight, because I'm proud of what you're making. I'm just tired of you ripping freaking paint off my walls. So I got all the frames out in the Jeep, and we're going to spray paint him this weekend to give him his own like awesome gallery for his crazy, whatever crazy drawings he has. But yeah, kind of
That's
that same
awesome,
sentiment, like trying to take something that irritates the piss out of me and then give it a place to grow and to foster.
And you're going to give them the right tape too, right?
Oh yeah, I'll give him thumbtacks, something,
Put holes in the walls.
or some poster
You gotta
putty.
give
Maybe
them
poster
that,
putty.
the green frog tape.
There you go.
But like the play, Sean, like you're talking about, when we moved out of the RV into this big house, I'm like, they have so much space, and there's like the space downstairs, it's huge, and like this will be like the playroom. Like, go nuts down here. I won't ever come down here, so you can just make it as messy as you want to, and I'll just ignore that this whole section of the house exists. And I mean, we wanted them to grow closer, and the RV was nice. And so now that's kind of backfired, that they don't ever want to go play in that giant room. They just want to go play with each other in their own rooms. And I'm like, you have a place to go be messy. They don't ever go down there. And
I noticed that like my kids don't like being that far away from us. And so like the living room, they've basically taken over. And I don't like it, but I don't know. It's kind of kept us a little bit closer too. Because they have their rooms too. Yeah, just kind of the way our family's finding equilibrium here.
so we have a question in the chat. Dan the Maker Man says, do you have a specific type of making you want to expose your kids to? Matt, anything other than wooden Star Wars structures?
I think one thing I definitely want to expose my kid to is making food. Like I really want him to know how to cook. Because I was a latchkey kid, and I learned that stuff at a very young age. Came home after school and made myself dinner, and it really prepared me more than like almost any other skill that I picked up as a kid. But like learning how to cook for myself, and I'm really looking forward to teaching them that.
That's interesting.
I think I'm going to have to do that, at least with my son. Out of necessity, though, because he has a really bad peanut allergy. And it seems like peanuts have infiltrated everything that anybody brings or out of a package. So I need him to have that skill to basically protect himself.
So, Sean, what about you? Anything else?
Probably a little bit of an antiquated idea in some ways, but I want my kids to learn how to garden and kind of like grow plants and food. And I don't know if they're ever going to have the chance to really follow up on that, but I think the knowledge is good. I grew up with a lot of that. My grandparents were farmers for a while. They had a really big piece of land, pretty big for this area actually, and used to grow all their own vegetables. I don't know. I just think the knowledge is good. I don't know what their lives are going to look like when they're adults, if they're going to be able to do it. But I think that that's a skill that I want them to have some sort of appreciation for. Working outside more than what they do now. How about you, Mark?
I agree with both of those. My mom grew up gardening, or I grew up gardening too with my parents. We had all sorts of stuff. I don't know. I want her to know that. I want both of them to know that nothing is out of their reach. I grew up only knowing that, construction Legos existed. So I didn't know there was really anything physically beyond that. I didn't know I could take, you know, a whole bunch of wood and metal and until I got a little older. But then to take that farther, I didn't know I could, once I got a computer, I could design whatever, and then 3D printers, I could literally make whatever. So I want them to know that anything that's in your head, you can physically bring to the real world. You know, we're at that point. So I want her to know science, like basic engineering, basic structural knowledge, basic coding, if I can ever get to it. You know, just as much as whatever sets off that little spot in your brain that makes you go, ooh, cool. Head after it.
I would love to teach my kids how to make things outdoors in the way of like Boy Scouts, kind of like out in the woods where you have like limited supply kind of stuff, and teach them how to like do like lashing and rope, like knot tying and things like that. Those are kind of, if you're not in the Boy Scouts, those are definitely skills that are given like no value, and I think they're good just for like troubleshooting purposes and like developing like resourcefulness and being able to overcome obstacles and challenges and things using the stuff that you have at hand within like certain constraints. I think those are really good lessons, and I had a lot of fun growing up out in the back behind our house, making little forts and things like that. So with the bare amount of materials, I was able to make like a 2-story fort. It had like a roof and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I put my time into it, and spent a lot of time out there, and got a lot of enjoyment and personal like satisfaction and pride. You know, every time I had new friends that would come down, like, oh, you guys want to check out the fort or whatever, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. We go out there and camp sometimes and just kind of goof off, but it was a good way to direct our energies in a positive way. I would love to kind of, a lot of that stuff I did on my own. I would like to see my kids do that and have me be able to help them out. You know, maybe throw some other things in there that they don't expect, you know, to help it kind of improve. But it's kind of a weird talent to have. I guess you don't really get to use lashing very much in a modern context, but sometimes it helps out being able to tie some knots in ways you don't expect. So
yeah, I don't know. I want my kids to be artistic, because I'm not, and I'm a problem solver, and I'm an engineer mind. And you know, when I was in the Army, I did the stuff that you're talking about, Wes. Like things out of necessity. You need something to solve a problem, and so when I see people that are very artistic and they just have that imagination and able to take something that doesn't necessarily have to do a thing or solve a problem, like that I don't know, it doesn't equate. I don't understand how people do that. But it's beautiful. Like you create just to create beauty and to share what is like inside and to use your imagination. And so I would like to help them foster that idea. And like I was talking about art school. Art school was never a thought for me because I didn't know how to draw. But I didn't know that there were so many other types of art. Like you guys did digital animation, and people can do like industrial design and things like that that are the kind of a mix of utilitarian with like imagination. Mm-hmm. I didn't know such things existed. So I was an engineer. You need a bridge, I build a bridge. You need an airplane, to build an airplane. So to foster like just a flat out art, make something because you think it's pretty or because you think it's silly or because you have a character in your head that can tell a story, or this fantastic kind of attitude that I really don't have or may have had and got squashed. But that's something I really want my kids to be able to do, is just create art for art's sake. Yeah.
I can get behind that.
Yep.
So there's also another question that Dan asked earlier on. So, what would be the first R-rated movie you wanted to share with your kids? And I don't know if it would be sharing with them now,
Right.
but I imagine
They're
the
always your
spirit
kids.
of the question would be sharing an R-rated movie before they're able to watch R-rated movies on their own. Maybe not right this second, but what would be an R-rated movie that probably you got to watch as a kid that didn't ruin you for good?
I know what Mark's answer is.
I don't even. Ooh. No, not the first. Well,
Hey Thea,
See,
this
I don't
is
wanna-
called RoboCop. All right.
yeah, right. Why is that guy melting, Daddy? See, now I loved and hated Aliens when I was a kid because I loved all like the tech design and the soldiers because I always loved that when I was a kid. But then the aliens just scared the ass out of me. I don't really remember what else was R rated from back then. I never paid
Right.
attention. I never paid attention to the ratings. I
No,
know.
I was having this conversation the other day. Like, I didn't know RoboCop was rated R.
Yeah. Yeah. Dan, that was probably my answer too. Dan says
That's
the Matrix.
interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but
That was R?
Yeah.
oh yeah,
I have no idea.
Really?
What movies are rated
Why was Matrix rated R?
the violence,
guns. Lots of guns.
the violence, the intensity, the imagery. You know, The Matrix is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I wasn't even thinking about it, but I think that would have to be my answer, but not because of the movie itself, but because of the philosophy
Yeah.
in it. It is a, I mean,
Mind trip, right?
when I watched The Matrix, I actually found out all the source material, and I went and read all the source material. Some heavy philosophical text I never would have been exposed to. So maybe from that intellectual standpoint, yeah.
Yeah, most of the ones I think of are PG-13 or
Mhm.
PG. You know, that would nowadays be considered PG-13.
I don't know why, but the first movie that popped in my head was Revenge of the Nerds.
Is that rated R?
Yeah.
I think my pick was going to be Jaws, just because like
Ooh.
New England, but I don't want them to be afraid of the water. So I think I'm gonna have to go with Kill Bill, just because
interesting.
there's so many references in that movie that I think it would send them on a path to like try to discover what those references were, and like everything from the music to the throwbacks to the old like samurai films and everything.
Old kung fu films too, yeah.
Old kung fu films.
I guess mine is Enter the Dragon. That was rated R, right?
Yep.
Okay, that would probably be my choice then. A good old Bruce Lee movie.
God, what movies
You know
are
what?
rated R?
I had to go on Google, and they don't have a really long list, but I don't know.
I'd almost want to play a joke on Mark Lee when he turns 13, show him Bloodsport, and then tell him tell him that he has to start his training.
Yeah.
See, it's either that or you got to splice in the scene from Hot Shots Part 2 to the beginning of Bloodsport.
Yeah. The gummy bears.
Yeah.
See, I'm having a hard time knowing what movies are rated R.
Anything with heavy violence, just accept that it's probably R.
Yeah, but like we talked about RoboCop. Like when I was a kid, I watched RoboCop. I had no idea it was rated R. It was crazy violent and had avid drug use, and it was just an all-around debaucherous movie. But I had
How about the
I
first
had the
Terminator? What
RoboCop
was that?
toy.
It was
That
R.
was our Terminator
That
was
had to
up.
be R. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
the
later
first
ones
scene.
weren't necessarily, right?
You know what? There we go. History of the World Part 1. I'll pick that one.
That was a good one. I wanted to say The Abyss, but The Abyss is PG-13.
Yeah.
We'll give you a pass on that one.
Oh.
Broken City. No.
All right, so what was your first rated R movie that you can remember?
God, I have no idea.
I think it was Revenge of the Nerds.
I think it was RoboCop.
RoboCop was pretty early for me.
Mm-hmm.
Drop it.
Your move.
Yeah.
Babe.
You know, I seem to be remember RoboCop being like one of those movies that, like during a sleepover, my friends and I would like sneak out of his room to like look into the living room and watch his parents watching it. Like we definitely were not supposed to be watching it.
Like I remember,
Oh.
I remember my dad getting our first VCR, and then we'd like every weekend it was let's go to the movie place, rent the movie. I remember that was Aliens, that was RoboCop, that was
Ghoulies.
No, Ghoulie. My dad never watched Ghoulie. Critters.
No.
And Gremlins.
Critters.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Gremlins, yeah.
Was Gremlins rated R?
Yeah.
Was it?
Gremlin.
No.
Oh, really?
No.
Hold on.
Shawshank was rated R?
Yep.
God, I
Well,
am
you
terrible
know
with
what?
this game.
I actually remember Gremlins was the reason they made PG-13.
That's probably accurate.
So yeah, Gremlins was an R because it wasn't that bad back then.
Is there going to be a period in time where watching Clerks with your kid won't be awkward?
I'm gonna say yes
that
because
genre of film.
well,
No,
I
I've
was
never
thinking
seen
about-
it.
yeah, I was thinking about Kevin Smith movies, and Deacon and I have been to the Quick Stop. Like I took him with me, so I was like, I kind of need to show him that when he's, old enough to understand. But someone was bringing up watching VHS tapes with their friends. When I was a kid, our neighborhood video store had a thing where if you got on the honor roll, you could get a free movie. If you guys had this, AB honor roll, you could get like one older movie, and a straight A honor roll, you got to have a newer movie, but it couldn't be rated R. But there was a loophole that I found accidentally that a non-rated movie totally worked.
Mm-hmm.
So because the movie was not rated, you could still get it with your report card. And so I think I was in the 7th or 8th grade and got to rent Bikini Bistro, this like softcore porn. And I like hit it with whatever other movie I was watching at the time that was completely benign. And I rented that movie
Benji.
like 5 times. I can contribute.
We're on the verge of too
Why?
much information.
No, like my academic success as a young child was
Skyrocketed.
completely perpetuated by me being able to rent non-rated movies from the network video. That was fun.
Is Matt
Matt, you
frozen?
still there?
Yeah,
I
I'm here.
don't-
Sorry.
Yes.
Had to
Video.
switch devices.
No, your
Okay.
video is frozen. That's fine. Keep going. Oh,
There
it
you go.
is.
Yay.
That's gonna be
Okay, so Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels has got to be rated R.
Yeah, it is.
I think if I was going to introduce my kids some rated R movies, it would be Guy Ritchie movies.
Snatch, Lock, Stock,
Yeah.
Rock and Rolla.
Mm-hmm.
I want to
Yeah.
watch Sherlock Holmes with her.
The show or the movie?
Both actually. I
Both.
still have to watch the show, but I'd still love the movies. The movies are so great.
Well, let's do a quick round of what are we geeking out about, and we'll start kind of wrapping it up here.
Well, I had a weekend in Atlanta at the woodworking show. Met up with a lot of cool people, some of which I had never met before in person. A lot of them I did, like Mr. Peter Brown was in town, and all the Making It ATL guys and gals. And Izzy was down there with the Arbortech booth, carving up a bunch of stuff, shooting sawdust and wood chips on everybody. It was pretty hilarious. But standard complement of makers. It was a good time. And let's see, got my Nerf gun further along. So I got the Twitch controlled Nerf gun. We got stepper motors aiming it up and down, left and right, and all the commands and fire and burst fire. And I set up a bunch of old surge cans and interesting configurations, and I think people were digging it, like knocking those over using just chat commands. It's pretty fun. Did you like that, Josh?
It was fun.
Yeah.
I still am completely ignorant to Twitch,
Yeah.
so I was typing all the words wrong. But it was really cool, and it was really fun, Wes. You did a great job, man.
Thank you.
Good job, Corey. Good job for all the help
Yeah.
Corey did. Corey Crehan.
And George. And I had a couple people helping out. But besides that, Nintendo Labo looks more interesting. They released a couple videos highlighting some new modes. There's a garage mode where you can actually build your own devices and gameplay experiences. And it's almost like visual programming. You have inputs and outputs, and you draw little lines, and all the buttons are configurable. All the sensors on the controllers are configurable. It even showed 2 switch screens and like having elements go from one to the other, like you hit like a paddle. Yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff. So there might be multiplayer and at least support for 4 controllers, and it just showed people making like an electric guitar with it, and like a remote control robot thing. You can make your own joysticks that aren't normally part of the actual kits. So I think it's going to be a huge amount of people creating cool stuff with that. It's just, yeah, I'm pretty excited with that.
Did you watch Tested's review of the new Labo?
Mm-hmm.
That thing is way more advanced than I thought. It was just pan and tilting, like with the IR sensors and stuff that they have. I pre-ordered it. So it's April 20th. It should be here because I was way more excited after seeing their review than seeing kind of the commercials, because the commercials make it seem a lot more low tech than it really is.
They do, yeah.
I'll go next. I'm geeking out about actually a family member. My cousin's son, Tyler, has started doing like stop motion animated films with like little Lego, and he's put out a series of them. So seeing somebody else in the family that's creating something related to film and making, I think is really cool. Actually pretty good. He's 13. He's already getting into this, and there's a couple of videos where he even has like an animated mouth over the Legos. So I thought it was pretty impressive. So I'm curious to see what he'll do over the next couple of years, because I still haven't done any of that stuff. He's done pretty good with it. So Tyler, good job. Keep it up. I'd love to see more. I'll have a link to that, the one video in the notes.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
I'm geeking out about 2 things. My buddy Colin just got us tickets to Ready Player One.
Nice.
So
Oh, yeah.
ready to go.
What's up, Colin?
And then, have you guys watched this YouTube channel, Toy Galaxy?
Yes.
So
I love him.
Toy Galaxy, yeah, Dan Larson from Toy Galaxy. Man, he puts so much effort into his writing, and he basically does these little mini stories that are the history of, whatever toys he remembers.
Oh, I have seen it.
as
Yeah,
a kid.
yeah.
And I keep finding like these toys that like he talks about that I was like, I totally had that as a kid, totally forgot about it.
I love that moment.
The writing is just spectacular, and he just did, the history of Toys R Us, and it's it's
pour
sad.
one out for Toys R Us.
Yeah, pour one out. It's sad, but it's really like an homage to Toys R Us. Really, it's not just like a lame history story. He really tells the story about how important it was to him as a kid and still as an adult, and it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah.
I heard the KP Toys was coming back.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm not sad about Toys R Us just yet, because if KB can come back, Toys R Us can regroup. Although the founder of Toys R Us just passed away too.
Jeffrey?
Something.
I was too late in saying it. Josh beat me to it.
That was a huge coffin they had to have.
Oh, man.
Charles Lazarus.
So I'm also geeking out about Ready Player One. I think we're going to see it this weekend. But I'm taking a page. It wasn't really from Adam Savage, but Adam Savage did it for Last Jedi. Is making a bingo game. Have you guys seen this? So you go into a movie, you create your own bingo card out of things you think is going to happen. And this movie's great because there's tons of cameos or plot twists, or it's already different from the book. So we make a bingo card. You go into the movie theater. At the free space in the middle, I put the Iron Giant's head because you've already seen him in the trailers. So Bob and I can put it up on the Dropbox for you guys if you guys want to play too. So I've got like characters that I think are going to show up, some plot twists or things I think are going to happen in the movie. And if you get bingo, then the group that you go with, like they have to split your dinner. So you're playing movie bingo. So there's enough cool movies coming out. Infinity War, Ready Player One, that stupid Han Solo movie. So if you guys want, well, yeah. But
Josh, you got that book from me.
I did get that book from you. Good at you, Matt. That was a great book.
That's what we call a callback.
That's right. I forgot I got that book from you. That's right. With a bag full of stepper motors that we used to do the automated dust collection in Bob's shop.
Yep.
That came to a grinding halt, and I'm like, wait a minute. I've got a random bag full of stepper motors. But yeah, it'll be fun. So I'm geeking out about Ready Player One and fun games. Wes, what about you, buddy? Round it out.
I already went.
Oh,
Did?
no, I gotta go.
Mark.
I'm geeking out about the new Deadpool trailer dropped today, so that looks like it's going to be funny. And the Lost in Space on Netflix.
That looked impressive.
It looks really good.
It looks good. I'm still holding love for the first version of the robot from the movie, but yeah, that looks really, really good. That looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Deadpool is testing really well too. Getting like rave reviews.
It's good to hear.
Hopefully they're finally taking note and doing things right.
I mean, finally, the first one wasn't good.
Well, I mean, within the past couple of years, Deadpool, I completely expected them to screw up a lot more, and it was, everyone loved it. It was great. I'm just wondering if the universes ever actually collide, could we ever potentially see Josh Brolin Cable beat the crap out of Josh Brolin Thanos, or the other way around?
And then the one guy who played Cyclops has to shoot his version in the Spider-Man movies?
Yeah, wait. Which?
The original. So not the young version Cyclops, the older guy, with the squishy face.
Yeah, from the first movie. He was in Spider-Man?
Mm-hmm.
Who was he in
married,
Spider-Man?
what's her name?
He was like a reporter or something, right?
I'll find
James
it.
James Marsden. Yeah.
James Marsden, yeah. Now I gotta look this up because I completely missed
Captain
it.
America and Johnny Storm are going to fight.
No, because they're gonna reboot Fantastic Four 5 more times till they get it right.
Well, Thanos could merge all the worlds in the second movie.
I was wondering if they were gonna do that.
They
Like
won't do it.
since they got the rights back to everything, to most everything, I was wondering if they were going to use that as an excuse to how bat crap would it be if Deadpool popped up at the end of Avengers 4?
I still haven't seen Deadpool.
Oh, you gotta watch it.
It is a treat.
It's all right.
If you've seen all the trailers, you've seen most of the movie.
Truth.
I bet there's a bunch of killing, some funny parts, cursing, and then more killing.
Yeah.
Guess what? You can write the movie.
I used to read a lot of Deadpool too, so I was really surprised at that last fight when the guy's like Bob, and I was like, wow, really? They brought that character in too?
Speaking of characters, we would love to hear from all the characters who regularly listen to the show. Go ahead and visit the Making Geeks website. Check out the contact page. Send us some questions, suggestions for the show, anything you like. And then right there on the homepage, you can listen to all of our past episodes and check out our impressive list of past guests, including our guest today. So we'd love to hear from you. MakingGeeks.com.
And you can find us across all the social medias on Instagram at Making Geeks Podcast and on Twitter and Facebook at Making Geeks.
And we'd like to thank our awesome patrons over at patreon.com, some of which... Wait, sorry, I messed that up. Edit this part out. Hey, I get a mess up. I get a mess up too, Sean. How many of you messed up? We'd like to thank our awesome patrons over at patreon.com/makinggeeks. Some of which are actually in our audience for our live show right now. As a side note, if you guys want to check out our live broadcasts, we're going to be broadcasting our shows at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays. So tune in. We're going to try to do live shows up until Maker Faire. But we'd like to thank our patrons for keeping the show on the air and keeping showing their support through their contributions. It's definitely not necessary, but we appreciate them for doing so. And our top patron, Mr. Seth Williams, thank you for your support. Patreon.com/makinggeeks.
And you can find us individually all over the internet at geeksmithing.com and on Twitch at geeksmithing. You can go shoot some cans with an internet-controlled Nerf gun. It's super fun. Asylum Designs on Instagram, Twitter, Thingiverse, and Facebook. Geekbuilders.net. My work is at the PI Workshop, or you can find me on iliketomakestuff.com. And Matt, where can everybody find you, buddy?
Most places you can find me at NeverNotMaking, except for Twitter. There you can find me at Matt Regonini.
Nice. So we'd like to thank Matt for hanging out with us, man. It's always a pleasure. It was good to see you again.
It was a great time, guys.
Yeah,
thanks a lot
man.
for having me.
Thanks for coming
Hey,
on.
Matt.
It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank everybody who hung out with us today in our live episode. The live chat was really fun. I'd like to thank you for the questions and interaction we had from people there. And we'd like to thank everybody for listening every week. It really means a lot to us. And if you want to listen again, just like Wes said, next Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, or you can stay tuned for the audio version every Saturday. And for everybody out there, we hope you have a fantastic week.
Have fun. Go make something.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yeah.
That too.
Bye-bye.
And we're out. Okay. That was a lot of fun.
That was good.
All right, bye,
So
audience.
this is the sexy after show, right?
That's right.
This is when